they buried him with roses. But beneath that soil, his soul was burning. 7 days later, his family wept above his grave, unaware that every tear they shed echoed the screams he couldn't silence below. Have you ever wondered what truly happens 7 days after someone dies? In Islamic tradition, this is no ordinary week. It's a sacred window, when the soul faces questioning, when mercy or torment begins, and when the living unknowingly shape the dead's reality through their prayers, or their silence. Today, I'll share a true story that shook an entire community. One that will leave you breathless, trembling, and forever changed in how you view death, faith, and the unseen world beneath your feet. If your heart just skipped a beat, don't scroll away. Hit subscribe and tap the bell, because stories like this don't just entertain. They awaken souls. And you deserve to hear them. In the heart of a quiet Chicago suburb, where manicured lawns met golden sunsets and luxury SUVs lined every driveway, lived a man named Ahmed. To the world, he was the picture of success. Tailored suits, a Rolex that gleamed under office fluorescence, a home with marble floors and a chandelier that cost more than most people's cars. Neighbors nodded in respect when he passed. Business partners called him a man of vision. His children posted proud photos of him on Instagram with captions like, "My hero." But behind the polished veneer of his American dream, something sacred had been quietly dying, his connection to Allah. Ahmed hadn't prayed in years. Not really. Oh, he'd stand up during Eid, maybe raise his hands once in a while when trouble struck. But his heart? It had grown heavy with the weight of this dunya, and light on everything else. The Quran on his nightstand wasn't read, it was used as a coaster for his evening whiskey. He gave charity, but only when cameras were rolling, only when it boosted his image. He fasted Ramadan once long ago, but now he'd joke, "I'm fasting from stress," and failing. His wife, Layla, would smile politely, but inside, her soul ached. She remembered the young man she'd married, soft-spoken, humble, who'd wake before dawn just to whisper dua for their future children. Where had he gone? Layla tried, again and again. She'd leave gentle reminders, a bookmark in Surah Al-Mulk left open on his desk. A quiet "Assalamu alaikum" before bed, hoping he'd respond with more than a grunt. Once, she even cooked his favorite biryani and said, "Let's pray Maghrib together tonight, just like we used to." He kissed her forehead, said, "You're sweet, Habibti," and walked out to take a business call. Her heart cracked a little more each time. She wasn't asking for perfection, just presence. Just a flicker of that light she once saw in his eyes when he spoke of Jannah. Their children, raised in the rhythm of American life, barely knew what a real Salah looked like. They celebrated Christmas with friends, just for fun, skipped Jummah for soccer games, and rolled their eyes when Layla mentioned hijab. Ahmed never corrected them. "Let them be free," he'd say. "Religion shouldn't feel like a cage." But Layla knew the truth. Freedom without guidance isn't freedom, it's falling. And she watched helpless, as her family drifted further from the rope that could save them. Then came the day that shattered everything. It was a Tuesday, ordinary, humid, filled with the buzz of cicadas and backyard barbecues. Their daughter, Amira, was graduating summa cum laude from Northwestern. The backyard was strung with fairy lights. Guests laughed over champagne and mini lamb kebabs. Ahmed, beaming in a crisp navy suit, stood beside his daughter, arm around her shoulders, flashing that $1,000,000 smile for the camera. "My brilliant girl," he said, voice thick with pride. Layla watched from the porch, tears in her eyes, not just from joy, but from a quiet, gnawing fear. What if this is the peak? What if after this, there's only fall? She didn't know how right she was. Mid-speech, as Ahmed raised his glass to toast Amira's future, his words slurred. His face paled. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the patio stones like a warning. He clutched his chest, eyes wide with sudden terror, not of pain but of realization. In that final second, did he see it? The years wasted? The prayers missed? The countless chances to return? Now gone? He collapsed before anyone could catch him. Silence fell like a guillotine. Then chaos, screams, 911 calls, someone performing CPR on the very spot where he'd just toasted his daughter's success. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. Ahmed was gone. Just like that. No warning. No last repentance. No whispered astaghfirullah on his lips. Only the echo of laughter still hanging in the air. And the chilling truth, he died exactly as he lived, distracted, unprepared, and spiritually alone. The funeral was a spectacle of grief and grandeur. Over 300 people came. Mourners draped in black designer coats hugged Layla and called Ahmed a legend, a pillar of the community, a self-made man. A local news channel even covered it. But amid the sea of tears and eulogies, something sacred was missing. No one recited Surah Yasin. No one gave tzedakah in his name. No one whispered, "Oh Allah, forgive him." They mourned the man they saw, but no one prayed for the soul they couldn't. Layla stood by the grave in her black abaya, the Chicago wind biting through her bones. She watched as the casket, polished mahogany, gold handles, was lowered into the earth. Her hands trembled, not just from sorrow, but from guilt. Did I do enough? She asked herself. When he turned away from Allah, did I turn away from trying? She remembered the nights she stayed silent to keep the peace, the times she swallowed her concerns to avoid conflict. And now? Now it was too late to speak. Too late to guide. Too late to save. But as the first shovelful of dirt hit the wood, a quiet voice inside her whispered, "It's not too late to pray." And in that moment, as the world moved on from Ahmed's tragic passing, Layla made a vow, not just to grieve but to fight. To fight for his soul with every dua, every charity, every tear. Because in Islam, death isn't the end of our ability to help those we love. It's the beginning of a different kind of love, one that reaches beyond the grave, and pulls souls toward mercy. Little did she know, 7 days from now, the earth would speak. And what it revealed would shake her to her core. 3 nights after they lowered Ahmed into the cold Chicago earth, the house fell into a silence so heavy it felt like a presence. Layla sat alone in the living room, wrapped in the same shawl she'd worn to the funeral, staring at the family photo on the mantel. Ahmed smiling beside a mirror in her cap and gown, blissfully unaware that hours later, his heart would betray him. The clock ticked. Outside, crickets sang. But inside, something else stirred. It was past midnight when a blood-curdling scream tore through the hallway. Layla bolted upright. It was her youngest son Yusuf, only 9 years old, standing in the doorway, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with terror, trembling like a leaf in a storm. "Mama!" he sobbed, collapsing into her arms. "Dad! Dad came to me. He was in the ground, Mama, but he was screaming. He said the dirt is crushing him. He said it's dark and hot and he can't breathe." Layla's breath caught in her throat. She held him tighter, whispering, "Shoo Habibi, it was just a dream." But even as she said it, her own skin prickled with unease. Because Yusuf wasn't a child who had nightmares. He slept like an angel, always had. And the way he described it, the weight, the heat, the suffocation, it wasn't the language of a dream. It was too vivid, too real, too specific. She tucked him back into bed, kissed his forehead, and stayed beside him until his breathing steadied. But sleep wouldn't come for her. Instead, she knelt by his bedside, tears streaming silently down her cheeks, and whispered the only words that felt true, "Allahumma ighfir li wa li walidayya." "Oh Allah, forgive me and my parents." For the first time since the funeral, she didn't just mourn Ahmed, she pleaded for him. By dawn, she convinced herself it was grief playing tricks on a child's mind. But deep down, a seed of dread had taken root. What if it wasn't just a nightmare? What if Yusuf, pure of heart, untouched by sin, had been granted a glimpse into the unseen? In Islam, children are often closer to the veil between worlds. Their hearts haven't yet learned to doubt what their souls already know. Then came the 5th day, and the signs grew harder to ignore. The family's Persian cat, Noor, who used to curl up on Ahmed's favorite armchair every evening as if waiting for him to return, now hissed and arched her back whenever anyone approached the backyard. She refused to step foot near the garden gate, the same gate that led to the path toward the cemetery. Layla tried coaxing her with treats, with gentle words, but Noor would flatten her ears and dart under the bed, eyes wide with something that looked like fear. And the garden. Oh, the garden. Just days before Ahmed's death, it had been bursting with life. Roses climbing the trellis, lavender swaying in the breeze, tomatoes ripening on the vine. But now, every plant had withered overnight. Not dried, rotted. Leaves blackened at the edges. Stems collapsed as if crushed from within. Even the grass around the patio where Ahmed had fallen turned yellow, as though the earth itself was mourning, or warning. But the most haunting moment came that evening, as Layla stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes. The house was quiet. Amira was studying upstairs. Yusuf was drawing at the table. And then, out of nowhere, a whisper. Soft, guttural, in Arabic. Not English. Not a voice she recognized. It came from no direction and every direction at once. Ya Layla, la tansa, as Su'al Karib. Oh Layla, don't forget, the questioning is near. She dropped the plate. It shattered on the floor. Her hands flew to her mouth. No one in the house spoke classical Arabic like that. Not even the imam at their masjid. And yet, she understood every word. Because her soul recognized the language of the unseen. That night, she couldn't sleep. She paced the hallway, heart pounding, reciting Ayat al-Kursi over and over, tears falling onto her prayer mat. She remembered a hadith the imam once shared. When a person is buried, he hears the footsteps of his family as they leave, and then he is left alone with his deeds. Alone. In the dark. With nothing but what he brought with him. And Ahmed? He brought luxury, but no salah. Fame, but no taqwa. Love from the world, but silence from his Lord. By the morning of the seventh day, the day scholars say the soul is visited by the angels Munkar and Nakir. Layla knew she couldn't wait any longer. She dressed in black, wrapped her hijab tightly, and drove to the cemetery alone. The sky was overcast, heavy with unshed rain. The air smelled like damp earth and regret. She stood before his grave. Simple headstone. Fresh flowers from Amira. A small American flag stuck in the corner. Because Dad loved this country, Amira had said. But Layla knew, no flag, no flower, no eulogy could shield a soul from what came next. She knelt, placed her palm flat against the cold stone, and whispered through tears, Ahmed, I'm so sorry. I should have fought harder. I should have reminded you every day. I should have pulled you back to Allah, even if you pushed me away. Forgive me, and may Allah forgive you. And then, it happened. A tremor. Faint, but undeniable. Like the earth itself took a breath. The wind, still all morning, suddenly howled through the trees, though the air around her remained deathly calm. Leaves swirled in a circle above his grave, as if caught in an invisible vortex. And then, beneath her palm, a sound. Not a voice. Not a word. But a scream. Muffled. Desperate. Terrifyingly close, like it came from just inches below the soil. It wasn't loud, but it pierced her soul like a blade. She jerked her hand back as if burned, gasping, tears flooding her eyes. Ahmed, she cried, voice breaking. Is that you? Are you in pain? Silence. Then, a whisper on the wind, clearer this time, in Arabic so pure it sent chills down her spine. Nar. Fire. Just one word. But it carried the weight of eternity. Layla collapsed onto the wet grass, sobbing uncontrollably. Not just from fear, but from the crushing realization that her husband was suffering, and she had spent the last week crying for him, instead of fighting for him. Every missed prayer, every ignored reminder, every moment she chose peace over truth, it all led to this, a soul screaming in the darkness begging for mercy, and no one listening. But in that moment of utter despair, a new resolve was born. Not guilt. Not panic. Sacred urgency. She wiped her tears, stood up, and pressed her forehead to his grave one last time. I hear you, she whispered. And I won't stop. I'll pray until your screams turn to peace. I'll give until your sins are buried in charity. I'll remember you to Allah, until He remembers you with mercy. Because in Islam, the grave isn't the end of our love. It's the beginning of our most powerful act of it. And 7 days after death, the real battle for the soul begins. That night, Layla didn't just return home. She returned with a mission written in tears and sealed with a mother's vow. The moment she stepped through the front door, soaked from the cemetery rain and trembling with holy urgency, she gathered her children in the living room. Amira, still in her university hoodie, looked up from her laptop with tired eyes. Yusuf clutched his stuffed bear, sensing something had changed in his mother's voice, something fierce yet tender. "Sit," Layla said softly, but with a weight that silenced the TV, the phone notifications, even the hum of the refrigerator. She knelt before them, took their hands in hers, Amira's manicured fingers, Yusuf's small, warm palm, and looked into their eyes like she was seeing them for the first time since their father's death. "Your father is in pain," she whispered, her voice breaking but steady. "Not the kind we can see, not the kind medicine can fix, but a pain in his soul. And right now, we are his only hope." Amira frowned. "What do you mean, Mama? He's gone. There's nothing we can do." Layla shook her head, tears spilling over. "No, Habibti. In Islam, when someone dies, their deeds stop, except for 3 things." She paused, letting the words sink in like rain on dry soil. Ongoing charity, knowledge that benefits others, and a righteous child who prays for them. She squeezed their hands tighter. "We may not have given him those things while he was alive, but Allah, in His infinite mercy, still gives us a chance to send them after he's gone. Every prayer we make, every dollar we give in His name, every astaghfirullah we whisper for him, it reaches him. It lifts him." Yusuf's eyes widened. Like a lifeline?" "Yes," Layla said, voice thick with emotion. "Exactly like a lifeline." And so, that very night they began. They cleared the dining table, once used for graduation toasts and holiday feasts, and turned it into an altar of mercy. Layla lit a single candle, not for worship, but for focus, for solemnity, placed the Quran in the center, and opened it to Surah Al-Fatiha. "We'll recite for him every night," she said. "Not just once. Until our hearts are sure he's at peace." Then came the charity. Not the kind Ahmed used to give for Instagram likes, but real, raw, selfless tzedakah. Layla emptied her savings. Not all, but enough. She bought 50 warm meals from a halal kitchen in the south side and personally delivered them to homeless men and women huddled under viaducts in the freezing Chicago wind. Amira, moved beyond words, cancelled her weekend trip to cancel her Amazon cart instead, and donated the money to a women's shelter in her father's name. Yusuf gave up his allowance for a month and bought socks and gloves for kids at the local masjid's winter drive. "Tell them it's from Baba," he told the imam, eyes shining. He wants to help now." Every act was whispered with intention. "This is for Ahmed ibn Yusuf. May Allah forgive him, have mercy on him, and lighten his punishment in the grave." And slowly, the atmosphere in the house began to shift. The nightmares stopped. Yusuf slept through the night, his face peaceful for the first time in a week. Nor the cat returned to the backyard, curling up near the garden gate as if guarding something sacred. Even the withered roses, impossibly, sprouted a single green shoot at their base, tiny but defiant against the decay. But the true sign came on the 10th night. Layla was alone in the kitchen, washing dishes after their nightly Quran recitation, when she felt it, a warmth. Not physical, but spiritual. Like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. She paused, hands dripping with soapy water, and looked toward the window. Outside, the moon shone bright over the cemetery in the distance. And in that moment, she knew. Something had changed in the unseen world. She didn't hear a voice. She didn't see a vision. But her heart, once heavy with guilt and dread, felt lighter, as if a chain had been loosened. She dropped to her knees right there on the tile floor, forehead pressed to the cool surface, and wept, not in sorrow but in awe. "Thank you, Allah," she whispered. "Thank you for letting us reach him." 2 nights later, the imam from their local masjid visited. He'd heard whispers of their story, how a grieving family had turned their pain into prayer, their regret into redemption. Over cups of mint tea, he shared a hadith that made Layla's breath catch. When a person dies, their deeds are cut off, except for 3, ongoing charity, tzedakah jariyah, beneficial knowledge, and a righteous child who prays for them. Sahih Muslim. He looked at her with eyes full of compassion. "You didn't just mourn him, sister. You rescued him. Every meal you gave, every verse you recited, it reached him in that grave. And if his punishment was fire, your charity became water. Your dua became light." Layla covered her face, shoulders shaking. All this time, she'd felt powerless. But Allah had given her the most powerful weapon of all, love that prays. Then, on the 14th night after Ahmed's death, Layla dreamed of him. Not as he was in the hospital, pale, gasping, terrified, but as he was in their early days, gentle eyes, soft smile, wearing the white kufi he used to wear for Jummah. He stood in a field bathed in golden light, no pain in his face, no fear in his posture. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at her, and smiled with a peace so deep it made her soul ache. Then he said, voice calm like a river at dawn, "Tell them." The screams stopped. He paused, eyes glistening. "Because you remembered me to Allah." Layla woke with tears on her cheeks, but this time, they were tears of relief, of hope, of divine confirmation. She didn't tell the children everything, but the next morning over breakfast, she simply said, "Your father is okay now. Because of you. Because of us." Amira reached across the table and held her hand. Yusuf climbed onto her lap, resting his head on her shoulder. And for the first time since the funeral, the house didn't feel like a tomb. It felt like a sanctuary. Because they had learned the most profound truth of all. Death does not end our ability to love. It transforms it. It purifies it. It sends it soaring beyond the grave, on wings of dua, charity, and unwavering faith. And in that transformation, even the deepest sorrow can become a bridge. From earth to mercy. From darkness to light. From screaming to silence. The dream didn't just bring Layla peace. It ignited a fire in her soul that refused to be extinguished. She woke before far, not out of habit, but out of urgency. The image of Ahmed standing in that golden light, free from torment, wrapped in mercy, played over and over in her mind like a sacred film reel. And with it came a haunting question: how many others are screaming beneath our feet, while we scroll, shop, and sleep above them? She sat on the edge of her bed, wrapped in her prayer shawl, watching the first pale streaks of dawn bleed across the Chicago skyline. The city was waking up, cars humming, coffee brewing, lives rushing forward. But beneath it all, in countless graves scattered across cemeteries from Toronto to Buenos Aires, souls were waiting. Not for flowers. Not for eulogies. But for dua. For charity. For someone, anyone, to remember them to Allah. And that's when it hit her. Ahmed's story wasn't just his. It was a mirror. She thought of her own parents, buried years ago in Michigan. Had she done enough for them? She remembered her father's quiet faith, how he'd wake at 3 a.m. to pray tahajjud even when he was sick. And her? She'd been too busy with work, too distracted by life, to give more than a passing "may Allah forgive them" on their death anniversaries. Guilt twisted in her chest, but this time, it didn't paralyze her. It propelled her. By sunrise, she was at her desk, typing furiously. She created a simple social media post, not polished, not staged, just raw truth. 7 days after my husband died, I heard him scream from the grave. Not with my ears, with my soul. We thought we'd lost him forever. But Islam gave us a lifeline. Charity. Quran. Dua. And it worked. If you've lost someone, don't wait. Start today. Give $5 in their name. Recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Say, "Oh Allah, forgive them." You might just pull them from fire into light. She attached a photo of Yusuf placing a meal in a donation box with a handwritten note, "For Baba." She didn't expect much. Maybe a few likes. A comment or two from relatives. But within hours, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages poured in, from strangers across Detroit, Miami, Mexico City, even Sao Paulo. "My brother died last month. I haven't prayed for him once. I'm crying right now. I just donated to a food bank in my mom's name. Thank you for waking me up. I visited my father's grave today for the first time in 10 years, and I finally said astaghfirullah for him." One woman wrote, "I've been angry at my dad since he died. He left us broke, lied about everything. But your story made me realize, maybe he's suffering, and I'm adding to it by holding on to hate. I just forgave him. And I prayed." Layla read each message through tears. This wasn't just about Ahmed anymore. It was about generations of Muslims, and even non-Muslims, who'd been taught to mourn with silence, when Islam taught them to mourn with action. She called Amira that evening. "We need to do more," she said, voice trembling with purpose. "Not just for Baba. For everyone." And so, they launched the 7-Day Mercy Project. It started small, a weekly gathering at the local masjid where families brought photos of their loved ones, recited Quran together, and pooled money to feed the hungry in their names. But it grew fast. Within weeks, mosques in 3 states adopted the idea. In Toronto, a group of teens organized a dua drive, collecting handwritten prayers for the deceased. In Dallas, a widow donated her late husband's luxury watch and used the proceeds to build a water well in Mali, Sadaka Yariya, that would flow in his name until the Day of Judgment. Layla watched it all unfold with awe. The same man who once used charity as a branding tool was now, in death, inspiring thousands to give with pure hearts. Irony? No. Divine justice. But the most powerful moment came one rainy afternoon in late October. Layla received a call from the cemetery office. "Ma'am," the woman said gently, "we don't usually do this, but something strange happened at your husband's grave." Layla's heart leapt into her throat. "What is it?" "The flowers you left. They're gone. But in their place, someone left a small bowl of dates and a copy of Surah Yasin, handwritten in Arabic. There's no name. Just a note that says, 'For the one who screamed, may you now rest in peace.'" Layla drove there immediately. And there it was, on the cold stone of Ahmed's grave, a humble offering from a stranger who'd never met him, moved only by a story shared online. She knelt, touched the paper, and wept. Not just for Ahmed, but for the Ummah. For the invisible threads of mercy connecting souls across cities, languages, and lifetimes. That night, she gathered her children again. Not in urgency this time, but in gratitude. "You know," she said softly, "your father spent his life building a legacy the world could see, buildings, bank accounts, business cards. But in the end, what saved him wasn't any of that. It was this." She held up her hands, empty yet full. A mother's tears. A son's socks. A daughter's cancelled vacation. A stranger's dua. She looked at them, eyes shining. "That's the real legacy, Habibi. Not what you leave behind, but what you send ahead." Amira wiped her eyes. "So, we keep going?" "Yes," Layla said firmly. "We keep going. For Baba. For Nana and Jiddo. For every soul forgotten beneath the soil. Because as long as we're alive, their story isn't over." And in that moment the house, once filled with the echoes of a man's final scream, was now filled with something far more powerful. The quiet, relentless sound of mercy in motion. Because in Islam, love doesn't end at the grave. It digs deeper. It reaches further. It prays louder. And sometimes, it's the only thing standing between a soul and the fire. So tonight, right now as you watch this, ask yourself the question that changed Layla's life forever. If I died today, would anyone pray for me 7 days from now? Not out of habit. Not because they feel obligated. But because they love you enough to fight for your soul in the unseen world? Because they believe your eternal peace is worth their time, their tears, their charity? Think of your mother. Your father. Your brother who passed too young. Your best friend who left without warning. Are their names still rising to the heavens in dua? Or have they been buried twice? Once in the earth and again in silence? Don't wait for a scream from below to wake you up. Don't wait for a dream, a sign, or a tragedy. Start now. Go to your phone. Open your notes app. Type their name. Then write, "Oh Allah, forgive name. Have mercy on them. Lighten their punishment in the grave. Replace their fear with peace. And let my love for them become a bridge to your forgiveness." Then hit send, to the heavens. Give $10 in their name to a food bank. Buy a meal for someone hungry and whisper, "This is for you, Mama." Recite Surah Al-Ikhlas before you sleep and dedicate its reward to your father. These aren't just rituals. They're rescue missions. And every single one reaches the grave, faster than light, deeper than stone. Because here's the truth no one tells you, your loved one is still waiting for you. Not in memory, not in photo albums, but in the dark, narrow space between this life and the next, where time doesn't exist, but pain does, and so does mercy. And the only thing that can cross that divide is your faith, your action, your love turned into worship. Imagine standing at your own grave one day. The dirt is fresh. The flowers are wilting. Your family walks away, hearts broken but distracted by life. And then, silence. But what if, just as the angels approach to ask, "Who is your Lord? What is your religion?" a wave of light floods your grave? Not from your own deeds, because let's be honest, how many of us are truly ready? But from the charity your daughter gave in your name. From the Quran your son recited at 2 a.m. From the stranger who heard your story and whispered, "May Allah forgive them." That light isn't magic. It's mercy. And it's available to every single one of us, if someone somewhere chooses to send it. This story spread like wildfire, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. In Detroit, a man visited his estranged father's grave for the first time in 20 years and wept as he recited Surah Yasin. In Bogota, a teenage girl started a dua chain at her school, where students write prayers for deceased relatives and drop them in a box that's read aloud every Friday. In Los Angeles, a reformed gang member donated his entire savings to build a well in Sudan in his brother's name. His brother who died in a drive-by, never having prayed a day in his life. And in each place, people reported the same thing. A peace settled over their homes. Nightmares ceased. Dreams turned gentle. Even the air felt lighter, as if the veil between this world and the next had thinned, not from fear but from love. But the most powerful transformation happened inside Layla herself. She no longer saw death as an end. She saw it as a continuation of responsibility. Every Eid, she visits Ahmed's grave, not with roses, but with a bag of groceries she'll donate in his name. Every Ramadan, she fasts one extra day for him. And every night before she sleeps, she places her hand on her chest and whispers, "If my heart still beats, his soul still has hope." That's the legacy Ahmed never planned, but the one Allah allowed him to receive. Not through his wealth, not through his success, but through the tears of a wife who refused to let him go, and the faith of children who learned too late, but not too late, that love doesn't stop at the grave. It begins there. So tonight, before you close your eyes, do one thing. Just one. Call your mom. Tell her you love her, and that you'll pray for her always. Text your sibling, "I just gave $5 in Baba's name. Want to join me next time?" Or simply sit in silence for 30 seconds and say from the depths of your heart, "Ya Allah, forgive those I've lost, and prepare me for the day I join them." Because one day, you will be beneath the soil, and someone above will decide, through their faith or their forgetfulness, whether your soul finds peace or pain. Don't leave your fate to chance. Start building your lifeline now. And if this story moved you, if it cracked your heart open even a little, don't let it end here. Share it. Talk about it. Act on it. Because somewhere, right now, a soul is waiting. And your next prayer might be the one that finally brings them home.